a social enterprise. So this has been really exciting, and it's been given the ladies the opportunity to learn the skill of...
Thank you. Gee, I hope I said the right thing.
My name is Tommy Kapai Wilson, and I come from the Kingdom of Te Puna. I am the Chief Imagination Officer, the CIO of Te Tuinga Whānau Services. The Puku Patch is part of the Happy Puku program, and we have this ethos or this philosophy that if we can reconnect people, our people, by giving them an opportunity to learn how to grow a kai, cook a kai, catch a kai, hunt a kai, and then eat a kai, everything will be ka pai.
Kia ora, my name is Beth Bowden. I live in Te Puna. I'm a trustee of Te Tuinga Whānau. This is the last part of our family farm, so it means a lot to me. I remember when we had cows in this paddock. My father planted this tree. My family always wanted to see it made into something productive and a place that people love to come.
Why is Te Tuinga working? Te Tuinga means to connect back to the community. We needed to construct a course or a program to reconnect them. Part of that program that's worked successfully is through what my brother Tepani is doing with the Happy Puku.
So I am a chef and self-taught. I had a restaurant in Paris called Kiwizine, and with those skills and passion for food, I'm passionate about life, people and food. I've come back to Aotearoa, and my desire was really to serve my people, the Māori, and the community here in Tauranga Moana. I found myself working for Te Tauranga, teaching the ladies how to cook and how to eat a healthier diet. And from that, this has evolved into a catering business, a social enterprise. So this has been really exciting, and it's been given the ladies the opportunity to learn the skill of hospitality and to be trained. The long term is to see them have full-time employment.
Back at home base, we continue to look at new ways to turn our tenants into good tenants, and we've got land agents now that are coming back and saying, give us a new set of tenants. And these were the same tenants that were being evicted because they didn't know how to look after a whare, how to budget, how to cook a kai, how to prepare their kids to go to school. There's a lot to teach, there's a lot to learn, but if you change the classroom, put it in the garden, out in the boat or in the bush, that's when they engage. It's all about giving them an environment where they can engage. I think what we're doing here can be replicated everywhere by bringing those community kingpins and funders in to something they can be part of, and that's why Te Tuinga is connecting the community and working. We need you to help us to help others. So no mai, haere mai, come on board, be part of the solution. Te Tuinga and the Happy Puku and the Puku Patch is working.
Thank you. Just in closing, yeah, some of you may be here next year and some may not. One thing I can promise is we will be still here. We'll be still working with the lost and the lonely, long after the bylaw headlines have disappeared from the front page. Empathy, not sympathy, is the solution to the homeless and rough sleeping here in Tauranga. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Tommy, and thank you so much for all that you do for our community and all your colleagues that are with you from our People's Project, our Whēnau House, Men's Shelter, etc. Connection is a word that keeps coming up again and again, and you touched right on it. And Beth, thank you very much for your property that you allow Puku Place to live. So we'll take some questions now. First question from Councillor Malloy.
Kia ora, Tommy. Before the question, I just want to say how much we all appreciate the work that you have done, and I'm very, very aware that a number of years ago, before you got some of the support that you're getting now, that you personally had to carry your organisation with a mortgage of your own, and I think people need to know that and appreciate that. that your love and support for what you do is absolutely critical. I do have a couple of questions here, and one is I'd like to know from how much monetary support our council has actually given you. That was one, and the other one is, what's the difference you see on the street now compared to last year? There's two questions here, Tommy.
The first question, we've had a lot of support from council with property. We haven't had any financial support, and no mai haere mai on that. But yeah, we had two wonderful houses that we got, one of them being the property at 1144 Cameron Road, and we really appreciated that. But now with those 6 families, we've had to rehouse them, and that's impacted quite heavily on our budget. I think there's a perception that I've got all these wealthy Tauranga people writing out cheques all the time for us. That's not the case, but we definitely have good support from community kingpins. I'd like to see more support from our Māori Trust, for example. I think it's time some of those kiwi fruit barons stood up and started helping us. Second answer, the change in the begging climate, more so at Greaton than in Tauranga, has been amazing, and that I am convinced was due to the publicity of the bylaw, and then everyone started to realise that giving gold coins is only feeding the addictions of the people that we're dealing with. So the last challenge now is what you see left. I won't mention the substance, but when the gold coins dried up, so did the beggars, and all that's left are those that can make money out of illegal substances. That's the answer to that question. We've got 60 years of experience of people working with homeless and streeties. They won't come across the road and engage with us because they won't get through our vetting system. So there's help there if they choose. And until they choose to walk across the road, there's not much we can do about that. Thank you.
Mr. Mason.
Kia ora, Tommy.
Kia ora, Max.
Kia ora. Tommy, can you tell us, you mentioned strategic kindness, so thinking sort of the longer term.
Yeah.
How do you see, say, over the next 5 years, the need for your services going, in terms of especially around the hidden homeless?
The ultimate goal is to, and that's where we've been down in Wellington, is to have homes that these people, these homeless, can rent to own. So we need to create a pathway of success. Good news travels faster than bad news in poor communities. So it's not enough just to take them from couch surfing into emergency housing, into long-term accommodation. There has to be a goal to follow, and we're a step away from getting 5 houses, where our best tenants who we've vetted and looked after will then go into their own long-term rent-to-own accommodation, and that's the goal. Because once you give that pathway for others to follow, nothing much will change, and we call it pinging from one agency to the other, and that's all that's happening. The people that aren't coming across the road to see us or engaging with Davina and Anne-Marie are just pinging from one agency to the other, and nothing will change when that happens. We must create a pathway of success for people to follow. So that's the well-directed, empathetic kindness I'm talking about, Max.
Councillor Baldock.
Yeah, thanks, Tommy. And like Terry has said, well done for all the work you do in the community. We often hear about, someone goes to prison, it costs us $80,000. I don't know how accurate that is, but it's the figure we always hear. Can you estimate how much it takes for Te Tuinga whānau, to take one person who's willing from the street and then get them finally into a house? I'm assuming it's probably less than the 80,000 we spend.
Yeah, it's a great question that I haven't prepared for, but what I do know is at the moment, most prisoners that are coming out end up on our doorstep. There's no accommodation, there's nowhere in Tauranga other than the little house that we've started under our own bat. Corrections are a huge challenge, but the good news is that if you get these prisoners to engage with their whānau before they come out, and this is based on UK research, 60% won't go back into prison. That's where the huge saving is. We've got to reconnect them again, just like the street people, just like the young people and the homeless. Reconnecting them is key. So what we would like is to open a couple of prison houses in Tauranga so that they can reconnect. Otherwise, it is going to go back to the gangs and back to jail, and there's 21,000 kids affected by a parent incarcerated, and we end up with them on our front door. So not really the answer. Dollar value, I know what we do has huge savings to corrections, social services, the government, local body, and the community of Tauranga.
And just quickly, you set up that ATM, that bank account for people to sort of go and give to instead of,
Yeah.
How has that been going?
That's been a little godsend for us. You know, as I tell everyone, the three most well-used excuses is I need petrol to go to my moko's tangi. The second one is I need a petrol or a car to go to a job. You know, those three excuses are well worn, and I think they've even been well worn out on the streets of Tauranga. But there are really genuine needs. We see it every day. I can put my hand on my heart and say a third of my salary would go to that cause, and many of my staff can testify to the same thing. But now with the Westpac account, it's not huge, but it's nice to be able to offer someone else's money.
Any further questions? Councillor Robson?
As we'll make it the complete gang of four. Tommy, what do you need? What do you need from this council, my friend? You've come here and spoken to us. It's as always, a beautifully delivered story, but your stories normally have a point and a purpose, perhaps a bit unlike the path we saw earlier, or the proposed path. What do you want? What do you need this council to do?
I guess our ethos at Te Tuinga is we never go and ask for anything. Whenever I go to Wellington, we don't go and ask for anything. The Māori belief is mana is given, and usually you get rewarded for the deeds that you've done. So we're just putting our deeds on the table and asking council to meet us somewhere in the middle, whether it's with property, whether it's with the catering company. Perhaps there's opportunities. You have functions, you might engage our Happy Puku catering company, that would help. And also Friday week, we've got Gumboot Golf Day down on the Masonic Park, supporting Mike King. So there's something you can all do. Come down and spend $2 on a golf ball. I'm not trying to laugh the answer off. It is quite a great kaupapa that Mike runs, and we're assisting it in every possible way. Friday week, April the 5th, it's Gumboot Golf Day outside the Nomad restaurant in your little Masonic Park. But yeah, any property, you know, we need 3 houses for 3 mothers with 6 kids right now. Yeah, just open dialogue and empathetic ears is what we're asking for, and we're getting it.
More, if I may, Madam Chair. Yeah, I'd just like to check with our team, the staff. Were Te Tuinga whānau consulted when we were looking at distributing or using some of that community welfare money that we set aside?
Megan able to answer that inquiry? They weren't consulted? Weren't consulted.
Thank you.
Perhaps they will be now. Starry night.
Thank you, Tommy. And you've talked about housing and the need for a circuit breaker, and if anyone's going to break that circuit, it's going to be the work that you do. What are your next steps? Do you have a strategic plan? Is it just business as usual? Do you, other than the hope for more housing, what else do you hope to achieve?
Our main focus is on fixing up families. We've had many opportunities to become property owners. We've purposely stayed out of that arena. Our concentration is fixing up families, whether it's young youth residents, whether it's mothers with their kids, whether it's old people. So we'll stay in that sector because I think that's where it's needed most.
Couldn't agree more, and you're doing a great job. But thank you, Tommy.
Kia ora.
Councillors, will move on. I need to call for apologies. So I have an apology from Mayor Greg Brownless, who is on other council business. Can I have a mover, Councillor Mason, and a seconder, Councillor Clout? All those in favour, please say aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. So now we'll go to acceptance of late items. As councillors are aware, we do have 2 important late items that have been tabled last night and this morning. You have the reasons there in front of you. We want to address some issues around NZTA and also some issues around Bella Vista, and these could not wait till the next meeting. So can I please have a mover and seconder to accept those late items? Councillor Currick and Councillor Stewart. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, and carried, which is a really nice segue into the next, which is to change the order of business. We will move DC 77 through to be the first paper, which is the Bella Vista paper, which will be spoken to by Nick Swallow, and then we will do DC 76, which is the NZTA agency report, which Christine will speak to. So we just need to move and second the change of order of business. Thank you to Councillor Baldock and Councillor Mason. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, and carried. Thank you. Are there any declarations of conflicts of interest? No, excellent. No deputations, presentations and petitions today. So that leads us into the first presentation, which we have the Youth Action Plan. This is being presented by Joy Ackerley. She's the chair of our Youth Advisory Group and the other members. So do we have, Paul, are you going to speak to this? Are you going to speak to it, Paul? Thank you. So Paul is going to come through and speak to the report, and he has Joy with him. Thank you.
Red light means on.
Welcome, Joy. Welcome, Sam. The floor is yours.
Tēnā koutou katoa. Ko William Harej me isis ethnic oku waka. Ko Mawao toku maunga. Ko Tauranga toku moana. Ko Akili toku hapu. Ko Change Point toku marae. No Tauranga aho. Ko Joy toku ingoa. Good morning. Today we are here to discuss and also thank you for your continual support for the Youth Action Plan and for what is happening for the youth in Tauranga at the moment. So as I said, my name is Joy Akili. I'm 19. I'm currently studying a Bachelor of Primary at Waikato University. And I am the chair of our really awesome group of 15 in the Youth Advisory Group. So, getting straight into it. The Youth Action Plan was developed. The Youth Action Plan was developed as an outcome for the Tauranga Moana Rangatahi Youth Engagement Plan, which was approved in 2016. There's been a number of outcomes that have been looked at with that plan, and the one we're currently talking about today is the Youth Action Plan. So over the past 3 years at the Youth Advisory Group, has been looking at within this Youth Action Plan and been looking within the engagement plan. There have been lots of opportunities to interact with our young leaders, to interact with our Youth Week, to interact within our own personal social media networks within the Youth Advisory Group. And we've had the privilege to have some really awesome members from the council come in and speak to us and get our advice on different things happening in the council, whether it be we've had people come in for bylaws. I'm sorry, I do not remember who that was off the top of my head, but we've had the privilege of having Gareth Wallace, from Manager of City Events, come in and discuss New Year's Eve and other events that are happening in Tauranga. We had the awesome opportunity last week to have Jamie from the YMCA running Raise Up to come in and speak to us about the really awesome things that they're doing in Tauranga at the moment as well. So it's been a very cool opportunity over the past few years to get to know our council more, to get to know Tauranga more, and to get to know the youth of Tauranga more. We also thank you for the opportunity over the past few years to come in and speak to you on behalf of the Youth Advisory Group. We have had a couple of chairs come in the past few years, and we thank you for that and for the continual support through that you've given the Advisory Group. So over the past 12 months, we've been actively talking to youth in Tauranga about what they want to see for themselves in Tauranga. And we've done this in a variety of settings. We've done it in O-Weeks at universities, and we've done it through the In-Step Young Leaders program. And the outcomes we've had from what youth want in Tauranga have been really interesting, and our action plan, we're really excited for what the action plan brings in terms of what the youth want in Tauranga. So a few things that the youth have discussed that they want in Tauranga is more emphasis on mental health and well-being for youth, internships and graduate programs, student housing affordability, youth culture in Tauranga. One of the big things has been looking at our environment and how the youth can get involved in how we as Tauranga can get involved in supporting our environment and making it the best that we can make it. It also ranges from transport options to different things that youth can do throughout Tauranga. Along with the attitude towards youth has also been a significant one that the youth have brought up, that they'd really love to see themselves be able to be supported more and encouraged more and seen as the really awesome and unique bunch of youth that we do have in Tauranga. Because we, even just the 15 of us that we've got on the Youth Advisory Group show a very awesome, vast range of the different personalities and uniqueness and the different beliefs and values that we've got of our youth in Tauranga. It's really awesome to see. Our youth action plan links perfectly with the things that youth are wanting in Tauranga. So, our youth action plan looks at social equity, community pride and belonging, healthy and active tauranga, safe and resilient tauranga, and engagement with partnerships. We are really excited as a youth advisory group looking at this plan. The things that we've got in here to do with youth and tauranga are such a phenomenal step forward, and we are really, really excited. As a youth advisory group, the things that we're most excited about is our internships and cadetships. We have, in the process of working with within different industries, having 60 different placements as a starting point for youth and tauranga to go into different areas doing internships and cadetships and getting the experience that we all know that we need, that every job says you have to have experience. We're also really excited to look into our youth voting. We're looking to bumping it up at least to 5%. Currently it's at less than 1%. So we're really excited as a youth advisory group to see that bump up and to do what we can to get our youth in Tauranga not only just involved in local elections but also in countrywide elections, and getting them to learn how to vote and why we vote and the importance of voting in New Zealand. And the other thing that I'm personally very excited about, and I know the rest of the youth advisory group are excited about, is the opportunity to run a couple of events in the next few years from 2019 to 2021, which is our span for this youth action plan, to do with community belonging, to do with mental health, and to do with getting the youth in Tauranga into a more active living frame of mind. So, a lot of talk, but where to from here? The Youth Advisory Group and Youth Action Plan, we have done, within our Youth Advisory Group, we have done governance trainings to get ourselves better equipped as a group so that we can better equip the youth of Tauranga. We have, are working closely alongside the Community Development Team, and from the Youth Advisory Group, we'd like to thank the Community Development Team for their continual support. Already, we have some of the things in the Youth Action Plan already becoming to be implemented and becoming to be in the planning process. One of the things that we're really excited about is that linking to our action plan, we have a Tuia representative on the Youth Advisory Group who works really closely with the Mayor, and she is really excited, and she's bringing a very cool stance on Māori and into Tauranga, and we're all very excited to see where she goes, and we know that with the mentorship from the Mayor, it's going to be awesome, to use very informal speak. Along with this, next steps from the Youth Advisory Council's perspective is that we are in the process of getting our communications up and running to be able to promote what is going to happen with this Youth Action Plan. Currently it's through means of Facebook, but there is other ways. Within the Youth Advisory Group ourselves, we promote things amongst our schools and workplaces and universities as well. I have already mentioned the internships and cadetships. That's already in the process of being established and looked at and progressing for the next 3 years to get a greater collective group rather than just the 60. 60 is just a starting point, but we're envisaging a lot more than that, and we're really excited to see it because we know it's something that the youth in Tauranga are really excited about and really want to get involved in. Just before this, I'd like to thank also Wharekura Umau for coming in and just showing a little bit of the awesome culture and awesome personalities that our youth in Tauranga do have.
Thank you for that. Sam and Joy, if you'd like to take a seat, there will be some questions. But firstly from me, thank you for the opportunity to work with the advisory group and also to attend the InStep Leadership meeting last week. Your voice is important because you are going to be our future leaders. It had a great backup band. So do we have any questions for the Youth Advisory Group? So Councillor Clout first.
Thank you very much, Joy and Sam and Whānau. Yeah, excellent. And we're, as a council, very excited to see that you're excited about the future. So just a question from me. How representative are you on your advisory group? You've got 15 members. How representative in terms of, location, ethnicity, age within that?
Awesome question. I can really happily say we are a very mixed bunch. Age-wise, we range from the youngest is 15 and the oldest is early 20s. We have 4 Māori representatives on our council as well, and we do span different schools, a few in university, a few working as well, so it's a very cool span.
Councillor Mason, then Councillor Baldock.
Yeah, thanks again, Joy and Sam. What a fantastic performance, thank you. Just wanted to ask, with the university opening in the city centre, your advisory committee, what's your advice on how that could impact the city centre over the coming years, with 1-2 more thousand students, in terms of the types of businesses, the types of events, the flavour of it, the culture, all of that sort of thing. How do you think the impact will affect us in the city centre?
I think it's going to be a massive impact. Already with the new university being in there are more students wandering around than I think they have been wandering around in a while. I can't say 100% what the future will be like, because our youth are ever changing and our youth have really unique personalities and unique stances on things. So to be honest, who knows what's going to happen in the next few years. From the Youth Advisory Group, we see so much potential for youth to get from the universities and from the schools alike surrounding, to get involved in more of what the council's doing, because of its perfect situation to the council, to this being basically right across the road. And so there's so much potential we see for youth to get to know the council more, but also to see youth running more events from youth for youth, whether it be down on the Strand, but also getting involved in community events. The awesome things that happen with New Year's Eve down on the Strand, with more students in town. We might see, I'm not sure to be honest, but we might see a greater increase in students being involved in those kind of events in service roles, because with the university you have 2,000 more hands that can help out with different events. And yeah, I think it's going to be a transition to change, but it's a really exciting time to be able to see what youth in Tauranga do bring forward. And yeah, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, sorry. I've got one too. I think, from our perspective, one of the biggest, not issues, but flaws in life as a young person in Tauranga is you grow up in Tauranga and then you go away for university, and then once you've settled down and had a couple of kids, you come back and raise them because this is where you grew up. And I think, maybe from our perspective, one of the big hopes is that the university is the first step to a culture of people actually staying in Tauranga and living their lives out in Tauranga. And from our perspective, that's a really good thing, because we want young people to be here. But I think the other big thing that comes along with that is that it might lead to almost a change in culture of what our central city looks like, because, wander down the Strand on a Tuesday night and it's pretty quiet. But maybe with 2,000 more young people living around, things might be a little bit more lively. But I guess we're not hoping for a party city either. No. It's not turned into Dunedin.
Thank you. Councillor Baldock.
No, we won't burn any couches in the street. Joy, thank you. That's fantastic. And your comments about trying to lift the student participation and the young people participation in voting is really right on. I wish you all the success in that. I know when Sam was here in the chamber, I think it was with Louis, wasn't it, Sam? And you made a submission on the museum we talked then about if there'd been more participation in the referendum, young people could have actually changed that result significantly. So I wonder what the real issues are going to be that would, motivate young people to vote in this year's election. Do you have any ideas about that?
I think part of the issue that we have found with voting is that youth don't actually know how to do it. I think if youth had a greater understanding of how to do it, some of the issues that are already being put forward, for instance, the museum or our community spaces, there might be a better increase in youth voting. That is one of the issues we found talking to students, is they genuinely just don't actually know how to vote in the first place. So in that sense, we already see that there is issues that the council are talking about that youth are heavily already interested in, but it's the step of how do we vote. I personally know from a university stance, things such as transport systems and community spaces for youth and university students alike to go be in community together and be in community with everybody else in Tauranga, not necessarily just a youth area, but a community area. I think those are a couple of things. Something else you want to add?
Well, voting is kind of my domicile, so talk about that briefly. But like Joy said, the current voting system is remarkably confusing. Like even to me, who spends his time whiling away political interests, it's confusing to go through the process of single transfer, and I think that will be a significant detriment to how youth vote, because it's making it less accessible in a way. So I think that's been a big frustration. In terms of the big issues, I also do some work with the InStep Young Leaders Forum, who are like part of Priority 1, and they partner up with us as the Youth Advisory Group. And the big issue that we're focused on as the InStep Young Leaders Forum this year is definitely what the city culture looks like, and that comes under the idea of public spaces. How do we embrace our Māori culture? Our new multicultural identity as a city, and all of those elements, and what our city culture will look like in 5, 10, 15 years' time. So for us, that's the big issue, but it remains to be seen whether that's going to be the big issue that will motivate people as a whole to get voting. I know, like Joy said, transport is definitely something a lot of people are focusing on, the environment, the affordability of housing, all sorts of these big ideas, but they're kind of what the young people are grappling with now to go forward into the future.
Sam, do you just want to talk a little bit about the visibility that came through quite clearly through the InStep, that the councillors aren't visible, they don't know who we are? And are you in a position to talk about that next piece of work that you're doing?
Which piece specific? Oh, yes, I can actually. That's you don't mind if I mention that? So one of the big frustrations that emerged from our InStep Young Leaders Forum, so our InStep Young Leaders Forum is a group of 3 students from every high school in the local area, and some other people as well, and they're different leaders from within the school. One of the big frustrations is that even in there, in a group who should be our community's local leaders, there wasn't a significant interest in voting even among them, and that's 40 kids who should be the best and brightest of our local area, and they don't care. So if they don't care, how can we get the rest of everybody else to care? And so that's the first big issue we have to grapple with. One of the reasons they were frustrated is because they don't actually know who the faces around this room are. And for better or for worse, there are different reasons for that, and we're not trying to assign blame or anything, but they suffer kind of from a lack of face-to-face connection. And so there were different things that were expressed to that, maybe not enough presence on social media, or maybe not enough face-to-face interaction, so not going into schools or talking in the community. I know who you all are, because that's all I do with my time, but they don't. Yeah, I know. Yeah, don't mock me. I'm sad. But that was kind of the one big frustration. And so going forward, I mean, we have our big idea, which is the idea of city culture. We've also kind of got a more targeted, focused thing to make, to get people out voting, and that's our video idea. So we really want to make some sort of video that not explains what voting is, but explains why you need to vote and what voting will do. And we hope that if people see this video and can relate to these figures, whether we have councillors in there or MPs or the mayor or whoever we have in that video, hopefully they can relate to them and understand why voting actually matters, because I think that's the other big reason why people don't vote, is because they don't actually know that their vote will do something. Because the majority of you think, oh, I tick a box and then I'm gone next year and I'm off to university and Wellington or Auckland, and it doesn't matter after that, and they don't realise that the impacts their vote can have are massive. And so one of the big things we've got to do as an In-Step Young Leaders Forum and as a youth advisory group working within that voting realm is actually convincing people that their vote matters and what they vote on can change things. So that's our big idea, is the video and the culture.
Thank you. Councillor Currick, Robson, Granger, then Malloy. So Councillor Currick.
Thank you. You mentioned youth changes and faces change. So in terms of the group, have you got policies in place to ensure some enduring representation of youth, via your group? I'm talking about like succession planning. Are you fairly confident that in 10 years' time this group will exist?
Yep. Within our youth advisory group, we have our terms of reference, which is a very long and lots of words and lots of bit of paper, but and within amongst that is succession and kind of longevity of the group, in the sense that we have to maintain. So 15 is our core number, and we have to maintain our 15. So if one person leaves, we have to fill the spot, and so every so often when seats arise, it goes out to youth of Tauranga, and we have had an amazing response of people wanting to be involved. It's our last lot was like, there was like 50 or something, wasn't there? There was about 50 applications for like 2 seats. So in that sense, we are excited about the longevity because we can see that there are youth that want to be involved. In terms of the members who are already there, the 15 of us, it's currently our terms of reference we're doing a little bit of shuffling around with, but it's a 2-year, at the moment, a 2-year seating, and then you can reapply to stay on, or if at that point you decide you need to leave, then that's fine. But also we have a top age, 24? Yeah, so 24 is our top age. After that you can become Youth Advisory Group alumni, so you can still be involved, you just don't have a voting hand in the group. So that's also why we try and get a wide range of age-wise, because it means that our 15 and 16-year-olds who are in the group have a long time to be able to keep getting involved and create more. Yeah, they are able to stay and develop leadership till they're 24. Along with that, our chair, our deputy chair, and other roles that we're currently looking at putting in place are rotated roles. So at the moment it's a yearly rotation, but we're looking at whether we change that. So in that sense, there's a lot in place that kind of keeps everything moving, but also keeps it keeps the longevity and the structure there as well, if that answers your question. Awesome.
Thank you. Just in the interest of time, please keep our questions short and sweet. Councillor Robson.
Yeah, thanks for that advice. The Youth Action Plan resonates, I think, with just about everyone in our community in the range of topics you cover. Just referencing the comments you made earlier about participation, I think there's been a complete failure of civics education. As a matter of fact, an absence of civics education in this country. We're not taught the importance of voting, and we're not taught the importance of connection, and I think that resonates now, perhaps due to recent events more than ever. And connecting in the physical sense, I note that in your Youth Action Plan you don't pick up the topic of transport. And so I'm going to ask you a specific question. There are other, what I would call more woke cities in the world where they provide free transport for youth, up to 18, up to 20, up to 21, up to 25. Is that something that's important to the people of this city? Is it important to the youth of the city? Was that something that you would vote for? Free transport for youth.
Do you want to take that one? I'm happy to.
This feels like a loaded question. No, but I mean, well, sorry, couldn't help myself. Free anything is always nice, but free public transport. Does it solve the fundamental question of how do we actually get people on public transport? That's the main question we're looking at. If free public transport is going to do it, then absolutely. For young people or for older alike, then yeah, we would support it.
If I can add to that as well, with the university, as we're saying, being in town, the per se voting for free public transport would not necessarily solve, but would help some other problems that the council has discussed around our CBD and cars and CBD and parking in CBD. So from a personal opinion, I would vote for that. I think there'd have to be structure around it, obviously, as always. But if just off the cuff, kind of yes or no, I personally would. However, there's a lot of things that also go into that from a youth perspective. But if you walked down the street and said to most youth, if I gave you free public transport, would you take it? I am hesitant to say that, but to be honest, yes, they probably would. In answer to your question.
Councillor Granger.
Hey, thanks you guys. I appreciate your presentation and the entertainment you guys did that. Awesome. Look, I was a little frightened actually when Councillor Baldock asked you the question about how do we get the youth to vote more, and I think you're going to turn around and say perhaps we need better looking councillors, but that didn't come about, did it? Yeah. Look, you mentioned there at the very beginning as regards to you want more things to do, and I see there's a little note up there as regards to 2 councillors joining you guys in 24. So are you referring to you want more things to do with the council, with the councillors in general, or can you give us a bit of an idea if you've brought a field in that?
So combination of both. So from a youth advisory point of view, we would love if any elected members want to come into our meetings. Our next meeting, sorry, the date on that one was wrong, but our next meeting is actually on the 17th of April. If any elected members would love to come in, we would love to have you and discuss. In that sense, that's from a youth advisory point of view. I think things to do in terms of like youth saying they want more things to do, is if that was also part of what you're meaning. It comes down to their sense of belonging in the community. So when they have a greater sense of belonging in the community, there is more things for them to do because they want to go out and be involved in the community. They want to do New Year's. They want to do stuff around Easter and that kind of thing. So I honestly can't say what things necessarily exactly could or should be in place, but just I think from a youth point of view, just a greater community belonging, and with that, there are some awesome events that are already running in Tauranga. There are some, we were discussing this as a youth advisory group, Tauranga has got some really cool events that youth just don't necessarily feel like either they don't know about it or that they won't go or anything. So it's not even necessarily it's not even creating new events. It's tailoring the events that we already have and the awesome things we're already doing to kind of be more inviting and enticing to you.
No doubt there's many groups that you could get involved with,
Yes.
and the list goes on so long. So, hey, look, I'll be one of those councillors that join you if you don't mind, one of the elderly ones, and I'm sure someone else will come along as well. So, but I'll look forward to that. It's on the 24th, isn't it?
17th, sorry.
Oh, 17th?
Yeah.
Okay. Not good at maths and middle.
We put the wrong date on this slide.
Just make sure we get the invite.
Yeah.
The staff will help us out there. Look forward to it. Cheers.
Thank you.
We'll make sure the invites are sent out. Be prepared for really nice pizza. Final question from Councillor Malloy.
Hi, Joy and Sam. I've got a feeling we're going to be seeing a lot more of you in the not too distant future. In terms of relating to council, how would you like to firm up that relationship and make it on a more regular basis? I'll give you an example. We are planning to have tangata whenua reps. They'll be formal but non-voting on council. Are there other mechanisms or ways that your youth group, your board, would like to regularly participate in council?
So we have discussed before whether someone from the youth advisory group could sit representative of the group, with obviously non-voting and all that kind of thing, just to be involved in it. That's all. There's also discussions in the background within our group of, because we are youth, there's a lot going on, so finding the right person to come and be able to sit in and have that role, we are still in discussion about, because it kind of depends on the person being able to. However, knowing that there is an open space and an opportunity to have a youth advisory group sitting in and contributing, so sitting in and contributing is already a really exciting step that I think the Youth Advisory Group, knowing that and knowing that the opportunity is there, are really excited about it. For our Youth Advisory Group, there's more discussion in the background needed for finding the right person to be sitting, for instance, in that role, or whether it swaps people around so everyone has a chance to be able to sit in and contribute, or those logistics. Does that answer your question, sorry?
Yes, it does. And obviously you'd probably have to rotate because amongst the board. But yeah, no, thank you for that.
I know when we discussed it at the leadership forum, one of the obstacles was the fact that it's a full day of Tuesday, because Sam and I talked about it. And it's a full day off school or study or work is also a barrier. So thank you to both of you, and I'll leave it over to Carlo just to close with the mihi. Thank you.
Kia ora mō tātou. Me mihi ka tika ki a koutou tēnei rā. Tō kaha ki te whakanui tēnei hui. Tō kōrua kaha. Ngā kaimāngai o ngā taiohi o ngā rangatahi o tēnei rohe. Tēnei te mihi atu ki a kōrua. O tira ki a koutou katoa ngā kaitautoko. Nā te mea, nā koutou i whakatūwhera, nā koutou i whakakapi. Nā reira, tēnei te tukuna o te rākau ki a koe pia e aukaha. Ai a koe te mana mo tēnei wā. Just to the rest of the whānau and listeners, it's only right that we just acknowledge the efforts of our rangatahi here. To you both, the advocates for rangatahi, it's great to have you here and putting into the council and support the councillors' views that it's valuable to have that there. And it's awesome to have the rest of the whānau there behind you as well. And because you as youth have opened this part of the meeting with a karakia, it's only right that you also close off. Kia koutou.
Thank you, and thank you to Sam and Joy for your great report and the action plan, and I'm sure we're as excited about it as you are. Can I please have a mover and a seconder to receive the report, please? Councillor Mason, thank you, and Councillor Morris, thank you very much. All those in favour, please say aye. Against and carried. So now we'll move on. We'll just give you a couple of minutes just to leave if you wish. Doesn't apply to councillors. Okay, councillors, there is no chairperson's report, but I really wanted to just speak briefly to the purpose of this new committee. So through the committee restructure, the elected members and councillors wanted to and needed to do things differently in terms of project delivery, delivering better community outcomes, and to work with staff on more operational matters. We wanted to be across all of our projects and to work with staff closer. There are 21 projects on our website, and transportation has a further 19 projects sitting under that, and Heart of the City has 5. So we're a very complex organisation. In the past, we've been encouraged to stay out of operational matters and to remain focused on the high-level decision-making, annual plans, long-term plans, and fixing our biggest issues. But being removed from those has seen some issues, and far too many projects have gone off the rails, and elected members have come in far too far down the track for any decision-making or changes. Te Papa o na Morapora Takataka is a classic example where there needed to be some value engineering to reduce the costs, but this occurred before we as councillors were even advised, and the green space that our community so desperately asked us for through consultation was removed in favour of concrete, and we failed our community, and we failed to meet their expectations, and we want to put a stop to that, another circuit breaker that we need. On today's agenda, we cover 47 different activities, projects or topics across 6 different departments and general managers. And there's lots of interesting facts in there that will be of interest to us, the media and our community, that normally we only see in our annual plans and when we report back on our non-financial performances. 215 events from December to February. No noise complaints from 2 of the country's largest music festivals. Te Hatai Coast is working with Project Tauranga to build a bike track. We had 1,173 new members to the library in February. We issued 253,000 books in January and 11,700 e-books. We've got 8 new public toilets at the Surf Club and 4 new great surfboard-shaped outdoor showers at the Surf Club at the Mount, and we got a tourism infrastructure fund of over $500,000 for that. Our highest peak of water over summer was 56,747 cubic metres. That's a phenomenal amount of A-grade drinking water. And in January, in total, was 1.5 cubic metres, over 1.5 million cubic metres. Did you know that January and February were the longest dry period for 40 years? Our average recycling is 80 tonnes a week, and in October to February, we've taken 1,625 tonnes of glass. We've had 55,696 cyber attacks and no penetrations. We've processed over 1.3 million emails year to date. We've received 670 objections to valuations, which only represents 1.1%, and 98% of rates were paid in February. And finally, we have 11,012 registered dogs. Those are just some of the information that's come through in that report that normally wouldn't be something that we would discuss or that we would be able to ask questions. Our community needs to understand how complex we are. While the recommendation here is just to receive those reports, if anyone sees any direction or action or decision making, we can easily pass a recommendation. Please just make sure you have a seconder first. So we're going to step through into the Bella Vista and the NZTA reports that will be presented by the General Managers. We'll take a brief break and then we'll come back for the General Managers reports. So please, if we can turn to the new late item of DC 77, and that will be spoken to by Nick Swallow, sorry.
Good morning, everyone. I realise this was tabled only this morning, so I propose that we have a brief period just to allow people to read this report. It is only in substance a page and a half, plus the attachments, but I'll talk to the report in a couple of minutes.
Councillors, if you just raise your hand when you finish reading, just to give me an indication. Thank you. When you're ready, thank you.
Thank you. So in summary, you will have seen that this report has been provided off the recent receipt of a number of concerns and criticisms raised through both social media and directly via direct correspondence with yourselves and a number of other people such as politicians and the like. The council staff thought it appropriate and timely to address those concerns, and in particular the allegations around claims that the Bella Vista buildings at Lakes Boulevard and Anita Way were not dangerous, and also the suggestions made that the remediation project, which you will all be aware is currently underway, is in some way designed to either hide the fact that these buildings are fine or to destroy evidence. And I think that's something that council staff and Marty Grenfell in particular have asked me to address through this report, and you will see that both those allegations are firmly rejected. In particular, the claims that the council incorrectly issued dangerous building notices is rejected. They relate to the circulation of a table prepared by our structural engineers. The key point to note is that table is only one area of expertise and does not consider geotechnical reports relating to this matter. I've included the table that has been circulated, but also a table that's been prepared yesterday which outlines the 46 reports received that went into the council's decisions last year to issue dangerous building notices. As to the suggestions that the remediation project is in some way to cover up matters or destroy evidence, I've said in this report that is firmly rejected, and it's absolutely important and vital for this decision-making body, yourselves and for the wider public, in fact, to be aware of the fact that the council has gone to considerable efforts, not only in terms of gathering its own evidence and expert reports and understanding of these buildings, but also allowing appropriate parties to have full access to the properties to undertake their own inspections and bring in their own expert witnesses. That includes defendants to the Building Act prosecution charges that have been brought, and you'll see I've also noted that we have invited the Ministry of Business, Innovation and Employment to bring in their own experts in relation to a determination brought against 311 Lakes Boulevard. So that's the report in summary, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
I think we'll just go around the room because it looks like everyone has a question, so we'll start with Councillor Baldock first, and then we'll just move around the room. If you don't have a question, just pass.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Thanks, Nick. I think the report is really useful and timely. Just on that table that you have there where it has, I just want to zero in on it and ask you to confirm a couple of things. You know, where we see these dwellings safe to occupy, yes, the Anita Way properties primarily. There's one other that has that. But this was done, this table was done, I think, at the top of the page, 1st of May, is that correct?
2018, yes. Yeah,
2018, sorry. And the reason we evacuated people was because of the unretained bank in front of or below those properties. And I think people who just see this might think, you know, so they were safe to occupy, but they don't realise that geotech issue you just raised. Can you expand on that even now, you know, until we've stabilised that bank below the Anita Way properties, those properties above are at risk of subsidence, landslip, if there's a severe rain event?
Yes, absolutely, and I would expand that it's not just the unretained bank, but it's also in relation to a variety of concerns coming from the geotech engineers around ground conditions. But yes, that is perhaps the primary motivator for remediating and making sure that that retaining wall is built as soon as it possibly can be done. Yes.
Councillor Stewart.
Thank you. Through the chair to Nick. In paragraph 15, it says the MB's been invited to send its own experts to inspect whichever properties it chooses, or 311 Lakes Boulevard specifically, if that is preferred. Have we heard back from them?
No, and I will be following up with them in the next day or so, and you'll appreciate from their end they have to arrange and get consultants engaged and so on. And I also note that I believe it's towards the end of April that 311 Lakes Boulevard, which will likely be the focus, that's the scheduled date for the upper story to begin to be removed and the basement block walls demolished.
Councillor Clout.
Thanks a lot, Nick, and it's great to see that we are making a response to these sort of allegations in a public meeting, so I think that's a step forward for us. Now, just in terms of the BCD report, and it's referenced that it was also mentioned in Paul Heath's report to us, paragraph 120, was this report in the public realm, or was it in a confidential attachment? Because there's allegations that, you know, the people who are have been affected by this had no idea that this report existed, but I see that it was in Paul Heath's report. Thank you.
A couple of points. That the reports that are set out in Appendix B are now available on the council website. I believe that the homeowners were provided folders with extensive information relating to their properties. As to whether this table specifically was part of that, I don't know. Obviously, it is a summary table of underlying reports, underlying structural reports, I should add as well, rather than the base material is perhaps a separate matter.
So it's just one piece of a large amount of material that we've got. Councillor Granger. No? Councillor Carrick.
Thank you. In referring to the table, I assume the remediation works listed on the right-hand column were fully costed, and those costs were included at that time in that report where the council made its final decision in terms of the way forward to demolish, remediate, etc. Is that correct?
Yes, through the chair, you'll recall, and I should note that DC 404 was heard behind in a closed session, so it is limited in terms of what I can say, but there were three options presented. One was a fully costed option, one was to proceed and undertake the costings through the remediation project, and that was the option that was preferred. So these I guess defects identified in this table weren't identified for costing purposes, but we have, as we've gone through the remediation, undertaken costings of those properties which are to be retained. Of course, that's the distinction between that and Lakes Boulevard, where you know the decision was made that was not viable to remediate those properties, given the seriousness of the defects and the need to get access to the retaining wall behind them.
Councillor Malloy, do you have a question?
Yes, I guess similar. I'd quite like to see the cost of remediation here. So we do actually get a feel for, in this report, you know, what that looks like, and also in some of these other defects, whether it's a fatal flaw, like it's a defect that can't be remediated. Like we've decided that most of remediation is too expensive, and therefore it's. But I'd like to see that spelled out there a little bit more.
Through the chair again, perhaps I can clarify. This report was dating from May 2018, prior to the issuance of dangerous building notices.
rather than, I guess, costing out the remediation options, it was looked at on a global basis, and it was not economic to remediate those because of the inherent difficulties of that site in particular. The need to build the retaining wall, and behind them, given the proximity of the buildings to that retaining wall. So in other words, remediation as a whole of those Lakes Boulevard properties was just not economically viable.
Further to that, the work must have been done for us to establish that it's not economically viable. You know, I'd quite like to see somewhere in here the figures per site and some rationale. Anyway, it's okay, thank you.
The purpose of this report is basically to speak to the allegations that have come through rather than be a base report for us. We've already made that decision, but I'm sure that we can dig that information out and get to Councillor Molloy from past reports. Councillor Robson.
Yeah, I think we need clarification on this, and I'm happy to speak quite publicly and let things fall. My understanding is the request for the information as currently phrased by Councillor Molloy, that information doesn't exist at the level of detail he requested. My understanding is we made a decision in the broader context that when you looked at the geotech and the cost of remediation, that we would not spend significant money and time and resource getting detailed remediation costs for every property, because overall that would just have been a waste of ratepayers' money. And therefore I would not like to see staff sort of spending time looking for something that doesn't exist. You know, I don't want us to open up another line of query or question here if in fact, you know, the situation is that, you know, at best with good intent, we're creating another issue for ourselves down the line. So is anything I've made there substantively wrong? Any statement I've made there substantively wrong? If so, please correct me.
Yes, through the Chair, that is an accurate statement. I would refer the elected members to DC 404, which they should be able to find, and if that's not the case, I can recirculate that.
And that's the point too, was just to give us the report that it was presented to us, and so we don't want to be looking back, we're going to be looking forwards. Does anyone else have any further questions? Councillor Baldock.
Just two quick ones. The report says that the defendants have been allowed to bring their expert witnesses through, but the frequent accusation is that we've been somehow blocking them. Can you respond to that? No.
Yes, I can. The inspection protocol that was agreed has to factor in a number of things. Look, obviously these are properties that the council now owns, and it is a live site, so there's health and safety concerns in addition to the inherent health and safety concerns presented by the unretained cut in particular. So I would suggest that I guess the protocol, if you want, is a way to accommodate people coming onto the site to carry out their own inspections, including at times invasive testing if they're sought, whilst recognising that there are things like large machinery, various people on the sites, and trying to make that all work in a scheduled and orderly manner.
Maybe Christine might answer this. I know you're not an engineer, I know Christine isn't, but you know, with the land underneath the concrete pads that the houses were built on, there is no way to know, in a sense, until they are removed, as to what the condition, the real, you know, geotech can do a certain amount of drilling and testing, but because of the water that's been going in there, we don't know actually what the condition is until we've done. We may have quite a big bill to make it suitable for housing again afterwards.
Through the chair, it may be helpful for Howard to speak. So Howard is running the work stream which is around the technical parts of that site to get it to a point where it's ready to be reused, and there are a number of expert reports and analysis underway, so I'd refer that question to Howard.
Yeah, thanks. The councillor is correct in my view that there is the possibility that there may be voids under portions of some of the buildings, and they could present difficulties if they exist depending on their magnitude. So that may be one of the findings. current plan is to remove the concrete walls and footings and slabs from the Lakes Boulevard properties.
Thank you, Howard. Councillor Robson. Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor Clout. I'm speaking to it. Councillor Robson.
Yes, I think I appreciate the report and the effort that's gone into it. I think it speaks to a change in the way we're starting to interact with our community. We are being very, very transparent, but we're also standing our ground on the basis of quality evidence and quality advice. And on both those respects, I like this report. Oh, and I recommend, obviously, that we all receive it as well.
Councillor Clout, do you wish to speak to it? Anybody else want to say anything? Councillor Currick, then Councillor Baldock, please.
Not so much speak, but add an amendment. The amendment being just that a further fuller report be provided to this committee at the earliest opportunity. I know there's information that's currently confidential because of commercial reasons. There's a contractor on site, and so there's a desire to keep out of the public domain some information. So yeah, that's my resolution to seek a further report at the next projects and services meeting to provide a full update on the project.
Statement that's just been made in terms of supporting this amendment with regard to information we're looking to keep out of the public. Can we get some clarification from the member, where he's headed with this? Because
have all this information in 404, DC 404.
I do recall reading in the report, I think the firm was more services or contractors, and that was the reason why information couldn't be provided, because they're in the middle of engagement with the contractor, and release of budget amounts, etc., would jeopardise value to the community or this council. That's what I'm referring to.
Can you respond to that?
If I may, and again through the chair, a couple of points. There is a full update report being prepared for the 16 April meeting. I'm sorry, I'm not sure which committee that is. I believe it's full council. Separately, there has been an information request for DC 404. Those parts that were no longer commercially sensitive have been released as part of that, including the contract price for the demolition contractor. But other parts are still subject to a future procurement process, in which case there are still grounds to withhold some of that information. I'm happy to come back either through the 16 April report on that matter, or I would be directed by yourselves as to which way you want to take that, but just do note that that report is being prepared.
On that basis, I'll
happy to withdraw. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else want to speak to it? Councillor Baldock?
Yes, I appreciate the report and support it. I'm a little concerned about the inference from one of the previous speakers that somehow we're now doing something new. I believe throughout this process we have done the very best we can to have been transparent with the information we could. And what has changed today is perhaps that we are now front-footing some of these accusations that are flying around. That may be what the member meant, because on social media and so on, there's just constantly the stream of ill-founded and not based on any fact kind of accusations. The council has been through a terrible process, having to deal with this situation. We've had report after report, we've had investigation after investigation. In fact, there will be more to come with MB's documents and so on, but it is not that we have been hiding anything. We have been actually dealing with this situation in respect to everybody involved as best we can, in my opinion.
Councillor Roy?
Yeah, I support the recommendation. My question was mainly about, as this is a public document, will be going out to the public, that I thought there's a few questions in here that are going to be asked that we could have short-circuited, and that information is already readily available. So could have gone there, but I support the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Moy. Also, just noting that social media can be a great platform, but it also can be terribly destructive. A lot of speculation, and as soon as somebody changes the direction of the conversation, the author loses the narrative, and all of a sudden you've changed topic, you've lost control, and everyone's believing everything that they're reading. So it's really good, and thank you very much to Nick for responding so quickly, and to the CE for responding with this report today. Final speaker, Councillor Morris.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm not a big user of social media, but just like NASA doesn't put a lot of resource into defending going to the moon and the moon landings and that sort of thing, or the fact that the Earth is round, I think that we need to be careful that we don't put a lot of resource into addressing strange things. Hate is going to hate. That's just the world we live in, so move on.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you for the questions. So that was DC 77 was moved by Councillor Robson, seconded by Councillor Clout. So I'll put that. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Apologies, I did not give Councillor Robson the right of reply.
Thank you. I think the comments made by Councillor Morris are very, very apposite. I think the response is of the appropriate weight and should draw a line under things, because it's very, very, unlike Mueller's report about Trump, it's very, very unequivocal, right? And that's, I think, the way we need to deal with certain issues. Where we have certainty, we should speak with certainty. Where we have knowledge, we should speak clearly. Where we don't, of course, we should be far more circumspect. But in this situation, I think this is a good response to questions that are raised. The legitimacy of those questions, the motives of the question is, that's for other people to talk about, preferably not on social media.
Thank you, Councillor Robson. So I'll press rewind and we'll go again. All those in favour, please say aye. Against? And carried. We're just going to go for a quick 10-minute break, then we'll come back to DC 76, the NZTA funding issues.